Hi, everybody. Today's guest is Kris Thackray. Kris, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm strangely enjoying these times. We had a brief chat before we press record, and I've just been jogging on the beach. I've been chilling here, um, and just trying to do a few of the things that I've been wanting to do for a while. Not as effectively as I want to do, but I think it's because we've got no time restraints, and you think you've got so much time because we've got no end date to this, so you take longer to do things. So I'm not getting as much done as I'm not getting up at 6 like I normally would. I'm getting up at 7:30, 9, and the days are quick and short. But I am getting through a few little hobbies and little things I've been working on. So I'm doing
Really
well.
interesting that we talk about the psychology of time and not being able to shift time. It's 24 hours in a day. There's 168 hours in a week, and it's about how do we manage that. And everybody who I've talked to over the last decade have always wanted to try to manage and manipulate the time of. I want to spend more time at home with my family and friends. I want to spend more time on my business. I want to get a little bit fitter. I want to learn a little bit more. And this is the perfect opportunity to do that.
It is. If we come out of this and we haven't ticked, I'm actually starting to get a little bit anxious about it finishing, and I'm going, I haven't finished that. I didn't tick that off what I wanted to do. I didn't, I paint it's like a hobby.
Uh-huh.
And I've got a little website. This sounds like an absolute plug. I just like family, friends, and a few little requests and stuff. And I've been meaning to finish certain ones for people have actually paid us for. And I'm starting to get a bit anxious that I haven't finished them. And I need to tick a few of those things off. And like I say, just feel like you've got so much time.
Well, I'm learning this whole new world of social media. So for everybody who's watching, if you please subscribe, and then if you have a little look at the link, I will actually put Chris's website on for his paintings.
See, we were saying before, I don't like publicising. I give paintings away for free.
Uh-huh.
I've got a problem with taking money for my product, and everyone around us, all my family and my friends, you devaluing yourself. Put yourself out there. You're giving a service, take something back for it. But I've got struggle with it. Maybe it's like you don't feel like it's good enough, or I don't know.
It is an absolute mindset thing. We've talked about the mindset with football and what you've done, and we'll certainly get to that. But I spoke to Kerry-Ann Hastings and I've been working with Kerry-Ann for the last year a lot. And she's a Durham University hockey captain. Her dad is a former Scotland rugby player and has played at the highest level. And one of the things that she found really difficult to do is to make this commitment externally to everybody about how good she was. So we actually, on the video, I'll let you watch it, so I don't want to be a spoiler there on that. My question was, how do you feel about the 2022 Commonwealth Games? And then the answer is now out there for everybody to see, where prior to that 12 months ago, she was a bit like, well, it would be really nice to be part of the Scotland setup and training camp a little bit. Now it's nailed. The answer is black and white. It's out there. Whether she gets there is not necessarily up to her, because she doesn't pick the team, but I guarantee you she'll be committing herself in terms of her work and ethic to do everything possible to try to make that possible. And, your football ethic and your mentality around football, if you can just transfer that over to the painting and some of the other stuff, then you'll be fine. And just a little switch. And we were talking about switches early on, which hopefully we'll get to that conversation as well. But for everybody who doesn't necessarily know you, Kris, and this 30 days of interviews is being in business, education and sports, so some will, some won't. Depends on their background. Do you want to just tell everybody about, you started at Gateshead College, and we'll talk about Gateshead a little bit, but then what you did as a professional football player?
I'll try and shorten it down. It's a pretty long story, but I went to Gateshead College. I did a BTEC, got myself into the first team with Paul Bryson, who's now at Sunderland, and managed to get into England College's national team. That was my goal. When I first went for the interview, Bryce had told us about that. He said, some of the best players get to go on these trips around Europe, if you can get into England. And I was like, England? You sing anthem and stuff. And it was just so attractive to me, who'd been released from an academy, Newcastle Academy. That was, we can go into that whole discussion as well about, being 9 years old and having a vision and a dream, and that's all you're focused on. So at 16, 17, that doesn't happen. It's a big, big problem. It's a big issue for mental health, and it's to be brought up now a little bit more of how to deal with that. But back then it was just you go and get a job. But when you're set on in St James's Park and having a Ferrari and being on match of the day and playing for England, and then that doesn't happen, that's you're already wired.
Yeah,
you're already wired up for that. So it's a big issue when that doesn't happen. So I was still focused. I still was trying to make it happen at that point. So I actually got into the England colleges team and got picked up after several trials around the country with trying to get a youth contract, rejection after rejection, and finally I got my break in Regina. It was Seria A team at the time. Give us a trial, and I got it, and the rest is history. Really, I played there for 5 years and moved. Then I tried to come home. I went to Malta. Then I went to Germany for 5 years, and then finished the last 6 months in Malta again before I came home and tried to play locally and transition into coaching. My family's in England, and I just tried to come home and settle, and realise that chapter of playing's kind of fading out now, and I've got to find a new passion. And that is another big problem, because I feel like I did reach my goals. I lived my dreams. Not my dream was to get up every day and play football and train, and I did that, and I did it at a level where I was like, "Whoa, I've made it here." I didn't play for England. I didn't play for Newcastle. I didn't play in the Premier League, but I lived my dream. So after that, you're like, "Oh, what am I supposed to do now? What? It's not going to be as good as this," and that's an issue.
I guess unless you end the chapter and then you rewrite a whole new chapter, because if you're going from something like, so say, football, let's take the analogy of painting, then actually, can you up your levels within the world of painting for you to be a better painter every day? And you absolutely can. And setting up maybe a painting gallery and stuff like that, you absolutely can. And getting up on a morning and just painting for a living, you absolutely can. And that's going to be dependent on your mindset and those transitions as well. The last 2.5 years, I've just entered in the world of property investment, and I've gone from where I think I have been in my current position in my life and what I do, which I really enjoy, to being, I mentioned it with the interview with Ravi, I'm back to primary school. I'm bottom of the food chain, and I know absolutely nothing. I'm 2.5 years in now, so I know 2.5 years worth of stuff more now than I did then, but you've got to find a new passion. And it might take a while to do that, but you have all the skills and the attributes that you can do that. But I want to talk about Italy a little bit. And we were mentioning about the fact that when I was performing psych at a football club, about the player who used to love during the week, but didn't necessarily like actually playing the matches because of the pressure that comes with it. You used a phrase in Italian. What was it about the Thursday player?
It's just like un giocatore del giovedì. So it's a player of Thursday. Do you know what I mean? Translated. So he can only perform on a Thursday. And so Thursday was the day we had friendly games, practice matches, and that's where all the pressure's off. There is no, angry mob of fans who are going to insult you and your family and your wife and your kids if you take a bad touch, or throw bottles and I'm not exaggerating. Like, this is, they wait for you outside. I've got story after story about this, but that is where you see who can deal with it mentally, and it will affect you. The ball's coming. If you're thinking, I'm going to take a bad touch here or no, you probably will. You've got to really get yourself into a state of, if that does happen, it's gone. You've got to react, and this is all well-known stuff, but it's hard to do, and it's easy to look good on a Thursday or during the week in training. And the difference is the switch. You can just turn it on when you need to. Like an old physio used to say in Italy, just before we'd go out before a game, he'd go, "This is where you earn your money. This is now where you earn your money, not during the week when you're coming in your car and training, you're in the ice baths and you're walking around town shopping. You earn your money in this 90 minutes. So do your job." And it always stuck in my head, like, "Oh, I've got to go and earn my actual wage now, just this 90 minutes. And a lot of players get caught. I'm a footballer. You only prove that on the weekend.
I think there's a couple of things there, Kris. One, you talked about pressure, and some people love it. You know, they strive for that. When I used to play tennis, I always played at a higher standard when there was more people watching, when we had some cameras on and it was an important match. If it was just me and you in the park down the road, I'd probably lose, because actually I love the pressure more than, you know, just the anonymity of playing in a park kind of stuff. But also some people just need to work on that. And it's something that you can work and develop and practice. But I think with some of the younger kids, and you mentioned academies now, and I know we're getting so much better than that, but I don't think we're still preparing kids for that transition to, you know, yeah, you've played at schools, you played school football, but you know, actually being a professional football player is a different beast altogether, isn't it?
It's almost like you've got to prepare them. It's a bit like it's a gamble if you're wanting to be a footballer, and they've got to understand it's a gamble. If you're 14, 13 and you're pushing, and you've got to push if you want to get there, but you've got to know it's very rare that you're going to get there, and you've got to be equipped emotionally and psychologically to deal with if it doesn't. But you don't want to think about that too much, because you want to push and be almost delusional in making it. So it's hard. I've got friends who just turned pro, then didn't make it, and they've struggled. They've had to go on antidepressants. Never really picked up the life again since, 10 years on, because they put the whole childhood and forming who they were as a person into becoming a footballer. So when that doesn't happen, you're trying to fix someone's character, trying to fix how the brain works, and it can be done, but it's hard. You can't play in catch up. You probably lose a lot of time.
It is hard. And I delivered a Zoom conference, because obviously that's what we're doing these days, with the under 14 women's coach from Newcastle United last week. Natalie Henderson. We're live on camera and I can't remember either.
I think it's Henderson, is it?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Natalie Henderson. And she was saying making it from the academy to professional football players, I think it's 0.001% chance.
Yeah.
So, and you have parents and you have kids completely jump on that percentage, but they don't see it. They don't see that. They just see exactly what you mentioned before about the Ferrari and the Newcastle United shirt or the Sunderland shirt or whatever football club you support kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I want to add something else into that, because obviously you just talk quite fluently there in Italian. And my Italian accent is non rompo mia coglione, which I think is more Sicilian, isn't it?
I think all Napolitan, I don't know where you've got your dialect from.
It's certainly a special kind of Italian
but
dialect.
I knew what you meant.
I think it came from a girl who I knew when I was actually working in Egypt at the time, so there's certainly some transitions there. But
in Calabria, they would say non rompisti coglioni.
Okay.
But it's non rompere il coglione. That's the Italian, but it changes every region you go. It'll be something different. So I don't know where you've been.
Yeah, I picked it up and I loved it, because basically it translates to something like "Don't break my balls."
Yeah, don't break my balls.
And it's just one of those things that stuck with us. And I lived abroad for nearly 10 years as well, and different phrases and different sort of language areas just pick up, and you retain them for whatever they are. But I wanted to talk to you about learning Italian and going to Italy, because you're not just playing football there. You're in a whole new country. You've got to make sure that you're either wearing Dolce & Gabbana or Versace. There's a whole culture around looking good and feeling good, and then there's a whole new language. How did you cope with all of that? But also the breadth of learning you get from being somewhere like that must be phenomenal for you.
Well, obviously, when I first went, I thought back to my school days of doing French, and I did French for 5 years in school, and I didn't do very well. I'm like, I will never be able to speak a language, but I had to, and they basically said it was, if you don't know in 6 months, you're not going to get another year's contract. I didn't know they were just probably bluffing us, but I was like, right. So I had 2 lessons a week with a teacher, and then every morning I'd just write the verbs down. write them down, and practice them and repeat them. And I needed to know what the lads were saying because I would hear my name in the changing room, or Inglese, the English. And I'd like, what are you saying about me? And I was like, right, so I was just on a mission to try and understand what they were saying, and obviously to understand the coach. So after about 4 months, I could understand what the coach said. And when he said, "Do you understand, Kris?" And I went, "Yes." I got like a full round of applause. And I didn't get any more lessons after that, because once I could understand him, they didn't care if I could speak or not.
Yeah.
As long as I knew the few words on the pitch, that was enough for them. So they cut me lessons off, but I continued and watched telly and movies. And in the south of Italy, it's rare that you get a lot of English speakers instead of the north, where they're a bit more Scandinavian, So that was good. It helped.
I always found when I lived abroad, you have to embed yourself in the culture, and you've got to try to learn the language, and you've got to eat with the locals. And if you do that, all of a sudden it becomes a little bit easier, because they'll take you on board a little bit, because they know you're trying to make an effort. And learning the language and learning in terms of the culture of, the clothes itself in Italy is huge, and the food is huge as well. So I've always found that if you can do that and go and immerse yourself in a culture, then it allows you to feel more relaxed, doesn't it?
You begin to kind of morph into how they do things at the dinner table or their culture, and that helps you get the little mannerisms, you get the little bits of dialect, and you start to understand the humour. Because I completely lost the ability to be funny, because going from Tracy was my lecturer, I would be joking, I'd be doing things at college, and trying to transfer that into Italy, because you're not on the same wavelength of language, you couldn't get it at the right time. You don't know if it was the right word. Yeah. And it was, I would say something funny, but I'd have missed the train, and it wasn't funny, and it was silent, and I'd get embarrassed. But that over time, after a year and a half, 2 years, I managed to get the sense of humour. And then you can start showing your personality off. So you've got to get past that. Yeah. Before can't get homesick and isolate yourself and leave. You've got to get over those things.
Yeah, there's so many great lessons, isn't there, for young kids coming through whatever sport, is the fact that if they just see the Ferrari and the money, actually they're going to miss that opportunity to get the Ferrari and money, because you're going to have to travel abroad. You're going to have to maybe live outside your comfort zone. You're going to have to understand that, you're going to be homesick. You're going to have to maybe pick up a new language. You're going to have to do a lot of educational based stuff that allows you just to go and kick a football around for 90 minutes, or in my case, hit a tennis ball for a couple of hours, because that's what we want to do. But it's all the other stuff that allows you to do that. And I think there's a lot of football players who've just packed in rather than take the opportunities that have been given that you've took and gone with. And I think that's your strength of character and your mindset as well. So that's been really good. What do you think's been your biggest game? What was your biggest highlight as a player?
I won a league in Germany. And I played a big part in that, and I was really proud of that. But honestly, when I played in Seria B, probably my debut, it was like, I don't know how many were there, but it was a night game. It was live on Sky Sports. It was like 20,000, whatever, 25,000. And the pitch was immaculate. And I was 21. And I just, in my head, I went, oh, I've made it. I'm here. So that's like, it might sound strange, but going from such a young age, just trying to get there, I'm like, oh, I've done it. And that was like a special moment for me. No, nothing in particular about the game, just arriving on that stage. And there's a few other big games like that in big stadiums, and just being there, that, in general.
I'm sure your performance had a lot to do with that footwork movement pattern that I taught you all those years ago as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you showed us sidestepping's quicker than running if you're trying to go sideways, didn't you?
Yeah, I might have been a little bit younger than Kris, but there you go. But no, I mean, some of the stuff that you've done is phenomenal, and now you're back at Gateshead College, which for me I think is phenomenal, because anybody who's at Gateshead College now, who wants to be a player, who's not asking you all of these questions, not picking your brain, then maybe they don't really want to be a player, because you've been there, you've done it, you've seen it. Like say you and Bash were together at the same time, weren't you? And same year group.
Oh, yeah.
And Bryce, who's now, like say Bryce is at Sunderland, you have all of those experiences and you have the knowledge, but you can help some of these kids who are coming through now, who are sitting there going, I want the Ferrari and I want the Newcastle United shirt, to start to go, well, actually, there's other options for you. There's other avenues. There's different pathways. You might not get it by the time you're 21. You might be 23, 25, but you've got to do all of these other things right. So with that, what would be your top 3 tips for some of the kids at Gateshead or any other kind of college or academy throughout the country now who are watching this kind of thinking, well, actually, I want to be a professional football player?
Oh, it's a big question, that. I would say get good. And what I mean is try not to talk it up too much. Try not to look back on what you've done. Really get good at what you're good at. So if you're like that's a different discussion even for me, because I realised, I think a little bit too late, my real strengths. And I was blending between different roles and different positions, and I should have focused fully at 18 or even earlier maybe on certain things. So find out what your real strengths are and just absolutely sharpen them and polish them up. Eat well, do all the professional things, and if we're talking about performing, have no fear. Have no anxiety about failure, about mistakes, because if you can get that psychology early, then you're going to be free. And if you're free, like I not to talk about myself again, but I've had moments where I'm in that zone, and I'm like I feel untouchable, even just to say if it was in training or in a game, and you're in that place of confidence. And you can do anything, but me personally, and I don't think I've said this really to anyone, but I wasn't able to maintain that. I wasn't able to stay in that zone long enough. Now that's the difference. So the top players will be able to stay in that happy place where you're on top of your game longer. And I think it's probably fear of failure.
Do you think
confidence.
That because you didn't recognize it and you weren't aware of it early enough, and maybe you didn't practice it? Because for me, psychology, I think that the negative things about psychology is people think it's pink and fluffy. Let's just have a chat with Graham or whoever it is, and we'll talk through some things. For me, it's never been about that. Psychology for me is a doing thing. So you have to be aware of what it is, but then you have to go and commit. You have to do it every day. And if anxiety is an issue and breathing is a way that you can lower your anxiety, you need to do it every day. You can't wake up, semi-finals of the FA Cup, and Harry Potter's going to be there with a wand and going, relax. It doesn't work like that. You have to get good, as you said, but with the psychology side of things. You've got to get good at being aware of those situations, trying to work on them so that actually the bigger the game, the more relaxed you are. And as I said earlier, some people can do that naturally, but some people just need to spend a little bit more time on it and work on it every day.
Yeah, all that side of things. Plus, I think practice, as in like really practicing the things that you might be nervous about. Take for example a lad I played with at the time. He was kind of just below me on the pecking order, but he would stay behind, and he would, the classic story of practicing really, but just passing to his partner, touch, pass, like inside the foot, across, like 20 yards apart, and just mastering it. And he did that with a few other things. And he went on. He's captain of Cagliari now in Seria A for the last 3-4 years. And he just went up and up and up and up. And at the time you wouldn't really, but you can see now when you look back, there's a few other players like that. They really mastered the craft of what their role and position was on the field. And it comes down to that, because that will give you confidence.
Of course, it's a work. a word that doesn't exist. It's a made up word. It's not tangible, is it? Confidence, if you can draw it or describe it, it's different for everybody. It's interesting you mentioned about ego there, and ego is one of the biggest things that stops you from actually achieving things. Whilst it makes you look good, at least in your own head, or you're perceiving that you're good to other people, actually the ego is the one thing that's going to stop you, because actually it won't acknowledge the fear. And as soon as you acknowledge the fear, then you can work on it. But until you've acknowledged that, you're always going to be at a level below where you possibly could be. And that's one of the things that I think you need, looking at what that fear is, describing it, making it real, making it more tangible, that allows you then just to open the doors and flourish and be, going to the next level kind of stuff.
It's like having to reset as well, just strip it all back. Coming back from my journey back home, people didn't really know about me or my circumstances, and I had to really deal with ego. But I was aware of it. I was like, you're doing this because you're frightened of what it might look like now, because of the image you think people have of you. So you've got to get past that. And I used to force myself to do things that I think the ego would be like, don't do that. Why are you doing? And no disrespect to college, but I was, coaching the bottom team, the sixth team, and volunteering for weeks on end. I thinking this player's come from Italy, blah, 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 and he's just like down there, but I enjoyed what I was doing, and I had to let it all go, what had happened in the past. I'm building a new, like you said, you had to start, felt like you're in primary school again with your, you got to start again. It's humbling, and it's more valuable than having a facade or pretending that you're something you're not,
And I probably wasted a year in my property investment journey based on the fact that my ego didn't want me, or wouldn't necessarily allow me to kind of walk into a room and for everybody else to not care or know who I was or what I've done or anything like that. But the ability to walk in that door and sit down there now, and for me it was buying properties, it was investing, it was actually proving that I could do it in order for me to feel comfortable in that environment. And now that it's done, it allows you just to kind of breathe and relax. And then all of a sudden, the doors open massively when you're able to do that. And I know you spent a little bit of time at the University of Durham last year as well, and at Gateshead, and it's your opportunity now to start doing and refocusing on what you want to do, kind of stuff. So with that in mind, I'm conscious of time, and I'm going to finish off with one hopefully a good question. If you were going to give yourself 5 years, so you see yourself, Kris Thackray 5 years from now, and we could go back in time, what piece of advice would you want to give yourself currently right now? And what is your future? What is it? What do you want to achieve in the next 5 years?
I've got a few little things that I don't really tell people about. Like I mentioned it to you before about having a podcast or some way of talking about football at this level. Yeah. So you're talking about this difficult level between League One and Conference and Northern Premier. Not just in this country, but in other countries, and the difficulty of that lifestyle and the pressure that's on these players, because they can't retire when they finish. When they get an injury, they don't get another contract. They've got their families. They're moving home every year. They're only getting 1 year contracts. It's a beastly business, and it's a tough lifestyle to be in. And like I was talking about, the mental health that comes with that. Yeah. It's a subject that doesn't have to be doom and gloom. There's lots of positives and fun stories can come out of it. But I've got a bit of an idea of a podcast that I'd like to build up, and just progress with me coaching and me teaching, pushing for me UEFA A badge, and being in a place where I'm just trying to help people and give them skills and things I've learned to try and push them on, and try and be of, it's a popular term, but just be of service and get value from that, because I've let go of all the materialistic stuff and the money, and I'm happy where I live in time out and enjoying the beach and the smaller things, while still being ambitious, but not focusing, like you said, on the Ferrari and on actually what I'm doing day to day of value. I'm trying to work on that. Sounds good, doesn't it?
Absolutely sounds brilliant. And I had a conversation this morning about things sounding good and working at Durham University, as you know. You'll hear they're very articulate, the players there, and if you ask them a question, they'll give you all of the right answers, but they're never really the right answers. They're the right theoretical, scoped out PhD, dissertation questions and answers. So what are your 3 core values? Integrity, passion. Yeah, great. I love that. But they're all wrong because they don't necessarily mean that they're not important to the individual. It's finding the importance within. That's your driver. That's going to be your passion kind of stuff. And I hope that will come out. Go on.
Are they not too young to be able to answer those questions? Or not had enough experience?
Well, yeah, maybe that's the point. Maybe they haven't got enough experience, but everything's about moments in time, isn't it? And they have to have some key words which are about their moment in time, whether they're first year, second year, third year. So therefore, I like to get rid of things like passion and integrity and all of those really nice words, which are the words we all want to be, by the way, and honest. There's another one. But we have to have something that they can buy into for that season. Their team can buy into in terms of building their culture for that 1 year. And those words might be things like hard work, but that's something that you can really start to measure. So every time somebody doesn't run for a ball, well, actually, hold on a second, you said hard work's one of your key values. That's not working hard, is it? So you can then check and challenge on that too. So I like to get people to pick words which are meaningful to them at that moment in time, and they can drive you forward. Next year it might change because, like you say, experiential learning and development is going to come with age and experiences as well, and but maybe the environment that we're into. So it sounds like you're creating an environment for you to start to take your journey to the next level of success, which is really good from my point of view to see you doing that.
I'm trying, and there's obviously loads of adversity and things we've got to keep trying to go overcome, but just keep trying to trickle forward in the right direction. That's all we can do.
All we can do, one day at a time. And I spoke to a client last week who was really struggling with getting through his goals at this period of time, and in isolation. And I said, let's just kill it. Kill all of your short-term goals and long-term goals, and let's just focus on when you get up this morning. Write down 3 things you want to achieve today. And then go and do them. And then at the end of the day, have a little look back, because momentum starts to stimulate your motivation. And all of a sudden, if you pick up momentum by having 3 easy wins in the day, 3 easy wins tomorrow, and you're starting to challenge yourself, your motivation picks up, your drive picks up, and then you can go back to some of your goals that you've got set. But it's just redirecting things at this moment in time.
And that's like when you do little goals like that and you don't do them, you let yourself down, and you get used to letting yourself down, and it becomes an easy thing. I said I was going to go for a run, but I always let myself down, so I'm going to leave it. It's all right. But once you get that, like you said, the momentum, you're away.
Yeah, and sometimes that's just about rebuilding habits, and we've done a session on habit building and performance habit building as well. So have a look at that, one of the YouTube channels as well. But for now, everybody else, please subscribe. Please watch Kris's session. I will put Kris's painting website on.
Don't worry about it.
I might be interested in a couple of paintings myself. But for now, thanks very much, Kris, for your time, and I'm sure we'll speak soon.
Thanks, Graham. Enjoyed it. See you later.